Top 10 horror movies on Netflix. Looking for the best scary movies on Netflix? Hey guys, welcome to your entertainment channel Netflix Tops, where we tell you about the top-rated movies and series on Netflix. So grab your popcorn and stay with us until the end of this video, because today's video is going to list down the top 10 horror movies to watch on Netflix. So let's get started. Number 10. The Babysitter. The Babysitter is a little guileless in its overt desire to be lovingly described as an 80s slasher homage, but simultaneously effective enough to earn a good measure of that approval it craves. With twists, care of Fright Night and Night of the Demons, it's at its best not when trying to slavishly recreate a past decade, but when letting its hyper-charismatic teenage characters run wild. Stylish, gory, and profane to a fault, The Babysitter features a handful of bang-up performances, like Judah Lewis as a late-blooming 12-year-old, Robbie Amell as a nigh-invincible football jock, and Samara Weaving as the title character, the girl of Lewis's dreams, right up until she tries to sacrifice him to the devil. Fast-moving, only 85 minutes, and frequently hilarious. It's probably the best unit of popcorn horror entertainment that Netflix has managed to put out so far. Number 9. Little Evil. 7 years after he gave us Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, one of the best horror comedies in recent memory, director Eli Craig has finally returned with an exclusive for Netflix, Little Evil. An obvious parody of The Omen and other Evil Kid movies, Little Evil wears its influences and references on its sleeve in ways that, while not particularly clever, are at least loving. Adam Scott is the sad sack father who somehow became swept up in a whirlwind romance and marriage, all while being unfazed by the fact that his new stepson is the kind of kid who dresses like a pint-sized Angus Young and trails catastrophes behind him wherever he goes. Evangeline Lilly is the boy's foxy mother, whose motivations are suspect throughout. Does she know that her child is the spawn of Satan, or as his mother, is she just willfully blind to the obvious evil growing under her nose? The film can boast a pretty impressive supporting cast, from Donald Faison and Chris D'Elia as fellow stepdads to Clancy Brown as a fire and brimstone preacher, but never does it fully commit toward either its jokes or attempts to frighten. Number 8. Till Death. Till Death initially doesn't appear to play to Megan Fox's strengths. For about 10 minutes, it's a door marital drama where Emma, Fox, extricates herself from an affair in an attempt to reconcile with her wealthy husband, Mark, Ian McKellen. It quickly becomes clear that Mark is controlling and abusive, but he's able to keep his worst tendencies just tempered down enough to give Emma some hope, until she wakes up the morning after their seeming reconciliation, handcuffed to her beau, who promptly shoots himself in the head. The burden of Emma's terrible relationship becomes physicalized and literalized as she has to drag the bastard around with her as she evades the criminals Mark has hired to come after her. This trim, compact movie is primarily a thriller, but it has horror-adjacent elements, practical gore, Mark's jigsaw-esque messages from beyond the grave, dark and gruesome flashes of humor, and that's what ultimately makes it such a great match for Fox. From her popping red lipstick in the pre-mayhem sections to the blood splatter that perfectly soaks half of her face, Fox looks like a femme fatale captured mid-morph into a scream queen. After years of objectification, she feels in control of her bombshell image. Number 7. There's Someone Inside Your House. Netflix's teen-centric horror machine has been revving to life lately, but it must ultimately be said that the ambitious Fear Street trilogy from Leah Janiak had significantly more creative verve than the much more familiar There's Someone Inside Your House. Although star Sydney Park is a likable presence, she's trapped in a film with shallow characters defined by single personality traits, and a script that feels guilty of some of the same offenses it's ostensibly satirizing. The actual slashings are photographed with plenty of arterial spray, but what the film is really missing is the emotional nuance that characterized director Patrick Brice's previous horror films in the Creep series. If he could have brought that kind of characterization to a high school slasher, There's Someone Inside Your House might have been quite intriguing. Instead, it's a lightweight diversion. Number 6. Under the Shadow. For most of the film, Babak Anvari is crafting a stifling period drama, a horror movie of a different sort that tangibly conveys the claustrophobia of Iran during its tumultuous post-revolution period. Anvari, himself of a family that eventually fled the Ayatollah's rule, has made Under the Shadow as a statement of rebellion and tribute to his own mother. Its distinctly feminist film, Shidat, Nargiz Rashidi, is cast as the tough heroine fighting back against greater hostile forces, a horror movie archetype that takes on even more potency in this setting. Seeing Shaddad defy the Khomeini regime by watching a Jane Fonda workout video banned by the state is almost as stirring as seeing her overcome her personal demons by protecting her child from a more literal one. Number 5. Blade 2. Leave it to the gothic horror extraordinaire Guillermo del Toro to take our unstoppable vampire hunter and crank the style past 11 as he plays up the comic book craziness to the tilt. Arguably even more enjoyable than the predecessor, Blade 2 sees a fragile alliance between Blade, Wesley Snipes, and the Blood Pack, basically the Dirty Dozen of vampires, as they face off against Reapers. Not only are there great new characters in the pack, but as this is a Del Toro joint, there's 100% more Ron Perlman. Fantastic. Number 4. Hush. Hush is a simple, intimate film at heart, and one that takes more than a few cues from Brian Bertino's The Strangers, among other home invasion thrillers. Director Mike Flanagan, whose Oculus is one of the decade's better, more underrated horror films, remains a promising voice in horror, although Hush plays things considerably safer than the ambitious Haunted Mirror Tale did. Here, the gimmick is that the sole woman being menaced by a masked intruder outside her woodland home is in fact deaf and mute, i.e. she can't hear him coming or call for help. First is the performance of actress Kate Siegel as protagonist Maddie, who displays just the right level of both vulnerability and resolve, without making too many of the boneheaded slasher film character choices that encourage you to stand up and yell at the screen. Second is the tangible sense of physicality the film manages in its scenes of violence, which are satisfyingly visceral. Ultimately, it's the villain who may leave a little something to be desired at times, but Hush is at the very least a satisfying way to spend a night with Netflix. Number 3. Christine. Forget trucks or Maximum Overdrive. Christine is the ultimate Stephen King car comes to life to kill people movie. The story centers on the spiffy Plymouth Fury of bullied nerd Arnie, Keith Gordon, taking sweet revenge on Arnie's torments in increasingly creative ways. In one of them, the victim could have easily survived by climbing onto the car, but we'll give that one a Charlize Theron in Prometheus pass. Director John Carpenter's take on King is full of the maestro's trademark moves, such as a strict reliance on mood and tone over narrative substance, spectacular practical effects. The sequence where the car fixes itself is still impressive, and of course, that raw synth score. Number 2. Creep 2. Creep was not a movie begging for a sequel, about one of the cinema's more unique serial killers, a man who seemingly needs to form close personal bonds with his quarry before dispatching them as a testament to his art. The 2014 original was self-sufficient enough, but Creep 2 is that rare follow-up wherein the goal seems to be not let's do it again, but let's go deeper. And by deeper, we mean much deeper, as this film plumbs the psyche of the central psychopath, who now goes by Aaron, Mark Duplass, in ways both wholly unexpected and shockingly sincere, as we witness and somehow sympathize with a killer who has lost his passion for murder and thus his zest for life. In truth, the film almost forgoes the idea of being a horror movie, remaining one only because we know of the atrocities Aaron has committed in the past. Meanwhile, becoming much more of an interpersonal drama about two people exploring the boundaries of trust and vulnerability. Number 1. Let Me In. Practically more supernatural a creature than its starring monster, Let Me In is not only an Americanized adaptation of a foreign film that isn't a waste of everyone's time, it's arguably superior to the film it's based upon. Though set in Los Alamos, New Mexico, rather than Stockholm, the choice of place for relocation initially seems an odd one. But it turns out it's not the icy Swedish darkness that harbors this sense of unease. It's the isolation of a 12-year-old boy, neglected by parents and any real parental figure. Owens' Cody Smith-McPhee bond with the eternally youthful vampire Abby, Chloe Grace Moretz, is as effective and chilling here as it is in the original, thanks in no small part to its two phenomenal young leads. No question there's a modern horror classic here, from the unlikeliest of origins. And this brings us to the end of the video. What are your thoughts on today's video? Share with us in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for amazing movie reviews coming your way. And thank you for watching.